And we'll begin with a settling. How is this for you now? How is everybody right now? The people are joining from wherever they're joining. But right now, how is it? People are leaving from wherever they're leaving. And how is it right now? Coming into the body, into the experience right now, and offering one's attention, giving one's attention. And in the gift of attention, experience is received. And breath is a usual object for a gift. Something that's usually not noticed is then given attention and received. Life to life, giving life to life, awakening to how it is for one right now. This experience. The perception of how it is right now, the whole experience. As the people are shown joining or leaving, or how it is right now, giving attention, receiving experience. One breath, one moment. We practice as if we're alone. When we're in a group, we'll practice as if we're in a group when we're alone. There's some instructions from Ajahn Vajiro. And nowadays, with this connection, we can appreciate that, recognize this is the way it is, this is the knowing that we know as we give attention and receive experience. It's a gift, life, and giving life to life. This moment. Before thought, knowing the knowing. Knowing the knowing. One breath, this moment. Sense of experience received, sensitivity appreciated. stillness, sensitivity. Interest, care. Giving interest, giving care, giving attention, and receiving experience as it is. The breath, physical experience, the attention given, the experience of the sounds, sensations, the mental experience, the sensitivity of this experience received. Giving of attention, receiving of experience, giving life to life. Knowing the knowing. This moment, this experience given attention, given care, given interest, and received without expectation, hope, or fear. This is the moment. Giving attention, receiving experience. This is how it is. A breath, a moment. Whatever the experience is, it's not so important. It's the knowing. It's the knowing of the knowing that will liberate. It untangles, settles, allows the ending of things to be realized. Giving life to life. What is truly alive. Giving life to life. offered attention, received experience.
Good afternoon, Tan Ajahn, and hello everyone. We will now formally request a Dhamma talk. Brahma Jaloka Dipati Sahampati Katanjali An Divaram Ayachata Santi Dasata Paraja Kajatika Dese Tudamang Anukam Himang Pajang.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namassami. I'd like to express my gratitude and to ask permission from you all to offer a few reflections. My gratitude to the Lord Buddha, to all those that have taught through the centuries, through the years, all those that have supported through the centuries and through the years, and to the people who've organized this talk this evening. I express my gratitude. The offering at the beginning of a period of quiet, a period of collection, a period of attention, way of settling. I noticed that people joined through the whole of the period, and I expect people will join and leave even during this Dhamma talk. And if you find this is too much or confusing, or you just don't want to be around or to listen, then feel free to leave. There's actually nobody will notice. You just leave, but very much. But it's not like you're in a room and you have to ask permission. So if you want to leave, then leave. And if other people want to stay, that's fine too. And if other people want to join, that's fine too. This is offered without expectation. Whatever you find useful, use, and whatever you don't find useful, leave behind, or just put it aside for some time and maybe come back to it. There's a certain repetition about Dhamma talks, there's a certain repetition about instruction. And this is to be expected because I forget. I forget what I've said, and I forget what other people have said to me. And I find repetition helpful, and most of life is actually repetition. One breath, another breath, and even in the repetition, everything is also, again, slightly different, and slightly different people explaining things or talking about things, or people in different stages explaining things and talking about things. So the repetition is not really a repetition, but there's a certain familiarity, and don't let that familiarity be something that just turns you off or numbs you, because sometimes that can happen as you hear the same thing again and again and again. That's what he just says. He said that so many times. Well, that's why I've heard this so many times by so many different teachers. And you can use repetition as a way of actually encouraging fluency and familiarity and sensitivity. So what's slightly different? What's new in here? And what's special about this? So, that gift of attention, receiving experience, and then noticing the subtleties of this moment. So in this experience, what is the thing that we don't notice? And what is the thing that is the root of all our confusion and all our troubles? And what can we do are the questions that are often asked, and we're extremely lucky to have had some contact or some experience or some confidence that maybe the Lord Buddha's teaching can offer us something. So the root of all suffering is ignorance, and ignorance is what we don't know that we don't know. Ignorance is not knowing what we don't know. And in each moment, the cause of the extra suffering, the cause of the suffering that we make that's extra, because there's ordinary experience of the irritation of life, the sensitivity of life means that there is irritation, because these senses, when they experience something, there's a vibration and there's an irritation. And the response to that is what we have to experience when we have these bodies, because these bodies are sensitive. They have sense experience, and different senses for different people in different ways are sensitive. And that's not to say that one is different, one is better than the other, but that's just the way that it is. People are like this. Sensitivity is like this. The eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. To the degree that they work, they function, they are irritated. And this is the natural experience of life. And the extra irritation and the extra stress that we put upon this is not understanding these basic truths. It's basically the way that it is. If we don't understand the way that it is, and if we don't know that we don't understand the way that it is, then we complicate things, because our responses to this basic stimulation are, of course, either towards or away. That's the basic response. This is the basic Vedana of any stimulation. We sometimes say with Vedana there's pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral, but neutral sensation when it's known is actually quite pleasant. One goes towards it, the heart moves towards it, and neutral sensation when it's not known, the heart moves away from it. And I think for many of us, we don't know the neutral enough, or we don't know the neutral, we don't have a refuge in what is not so stimulating, what is actually peaceful. We don't know what is already peaceful. And this is a way of practicing. So with the basic practice, we use the breath, which is a neutral thing that is half conscious and half unconscious. Can be conscious or can be unconscious. Something that is usually not known can be known. And in itself, it's just this much. And yet it's also incredibly revealing. And it's also a powerful way of affecting a change in the way that we are and the way that we respond. The old adage of when you get angry, stop and take a few deep breaths isn't, it's not just some sort of useless advice. It's a very basic advice, and one can, with practice, learn how to breathe properly. And this can really help change the way the mood is and change the way one responds to things. It's not enough, because what really liberates is the knowing and wisdom, and the wisdom to really know the Four Noble Truths. Four truths that make life noble and worthwhile, make life worthy, and make life a blessing to oneself and to others. And the first is this recognition and knowing of dukkha, knowing that there is dukkha in all its forms. And understanding that this is the mechanism of it. This is the way that if one's associated with the dislike, separated from the like, not getting what one wants, just endlessly running from one thing to the other. This is stressful. It's stressful for oneself. And when there's stress here, there's the tendency also to put it out there. So it makes stress for others and for other beings. And this is not helpful for oneself and not helpful for others, of course. And in making stress for others, you make stress for yourself. And with wisdom, there's a sense of this is how it is. There is stress. Getting old is stressful. Associated with a dislike, getting sick is stressful. Not getting what one wants is stressful. All of this is all stressful, all stress, all dukkha, all hard to bear. Another way of describing dukkha is hard to bear. Unsatisfactory is another way of putting it, which is just, it's in some way not what you want. And of course, but that, if it's left at that, the Lord Buddha would have been very depressing. And so the way that it's explained and the way that it's set out is quite easy. There is causality. When the causes and conditions for something are there, the thing will be there. And when the causes and conditions for the thing is not there, the thing will not be there. And the cause of this dukkha is, of course, the sense of lack, the sense of thirst, the sense of incompleteness and wanting to fill something, wanting or being unable to deal with things, which is, or the sense of just seeking to use these senses purely for pleasure. And of course, the nature of the senses is that they can't give you pleasure forever, because if you do get some stimulation that's pleasant, then what comes immediately with that is the sense of when's this going to end, or how's it going to end, or how can I get more of this? How can I keep stimulating these senses, the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body, to get more pleasure? And this response to dukkha of just trying to divert attention from stress by using the body to get more pleasure, it leads to a sense of unworthiness, and it doesn't work long term, because you can't constantly stimulate, because actually then it gets unpleasant. Again, you can't eat ice cream forever, even if you enjoy it occasionally, or if you go from the ice cream to the caviar, or the caviar to the ice cream, or to the next pleasant thing. You're not going to find an end to that. And there'll always be the slight sort of worry about how is it going to work. And then eventually, of course, the body itself will go. And this recognition that their stress is caused by tanha, kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha, and because the other thing is wanting to get rid of it, or wanting to become, and wanting not being able to cope. So you've got this sense of pushing away, stop, get rid of it. So you have greed and aversion. That's the cause. That's the way that it is, and it shouldn't be any other way. To think it should be other ways, then it's a waste of time. But what one can do is still relate to this. So one relates to dukkha by knowing and understanding it. One relates to the cause of dukkha by abandoning it, by not taking it, not picking it up, not holding on to things. And then the practice is that when the causes and conditions for something are not there, the thing will not be there. And the thing that will not, and what will happen when the thing is not there, there'll be the end of dukkha. So to know, and the way to relate to the end of dukkha is to make that real, realize the end of dukkha. Make it something that you're really familiar with. So you know dukkha and you know the end of dukkha. That's all the Buddha taught, dukkha and the end of dukkha. To know where dukkha ends, to know where stress ends, to know what is not stressful. And then to come back to this is to come back to the neutral. To have some appreciation of the neutral. And to know the subtlety of the neutral, the peace, the neutral, to know where stress ends. And it's not in physical stress. You can know what's hurting if you've got a cut, or you've banged yourself, or you've got a bruise, or you've got a physical pain, or you've got a headache. You can know what's not hurting. And you can know what is hurting, and move your attention into the part that's hurting, and know what's not hurting. In the case of mental anguish, or obsessive stuff, or thoughts, or obsessive habits, know where it ends. Know the beginning and the end of something. And in terms of thought, know what's not thinking. What is not thinking? Where does thought end? People like to imagine that meditation is stopping thinking. And that's something that can certainly be done. It's not impossible, but maybe as a beginning to this is to know what's not thinking. No thought, and what knows thought, which is not thinking. Where does thought end? With Ajahn Sumedho, it's the suggestion that you think really slowly and know where thought ends. In the moment, you know what knows thought, because what knows thought is not thinking. What knows experience is not the experience. What knows the experiencer? What knows the knowing? And this is so that in this, there's a lack of, it's called viraga, it's the end of the compulsion of passion. It's not that it's passionless, but it's where it's without the compulsion. It knows where things end. And it knows the possibility of generosity of the gift. Because in the giving of something, there has to be a lack of clinging. And that has to be a letting go, a relinquishing. And there has to be in that a sense of sufficiency, a sense that I have enough. That's why I really stress in meditation to practice it as a gift, as a giving of life to life, a giving of attention, a sense of I can do this. Coming to the meditation with a sense of I've got to get something out of it. Oh, you might do it, but what you're feeding is a sense of I have to have something in order to make me happy. Or I have to get rid of something in order to make me happy. And yet what we recognize is that the happiness which is beyond conditions, is not dependent upon conditions, is a happiness that is worthwhile, and it makes life noble and worthy as a human being. You know, we were given life. We may feel that it was unfair, and maybe we shouldn't have been born, but here we are. Here is life. And this is something we can give attention to and we can receive fully. We must have received kindness. For in order for a human body to exist, it has to have received kindness in the first moments of its existence as a separate entity. Otherwise, it doesn't function, it dies. So life has to receive kindness. And the kindness is the sense of acceptance, and then from that also the sense of how can this being suffer less now and in the future? How can this being suffer less now and in the future? And that's an expression of compassion, because compassion is an action so that beings can suffer less now and in the future. It's and that requires wisdom, of course, and it's the basis of what we experience when we come across the teachings of the Lord Buddha, because the Buddha offered a teaching and a training. A teaching is a way of, the teaching of the Dhamma is the way of thinking and reviewing and an assumption that one makes about life that will allow beings to suffer less now and in the future. And the training is a way of using one's body and mind and speech so that there's less suffering now and in the future. That's the teaching of the Dhamma Vinaya. And that's its whole purpose, is to know suffering and the end of suffering. And that takes us to the Fourth Noble Truth, the truth that allows us to lead a life that is noble, that is worthwhile, that has value. And this is what we can do. People say, well, what can I do? What should I do? What technique will help me? And the practice of the Eightfold Path is what will help. And to getting that right from the beginning, getting that set up in the way that is actually liberating and actually leads to peace. Samadhi. And that's described as knowing the Four Noble Truths. That's where the ignorance lies. And that's what will liberate, knowing the Four Noble Truths. And the assumption of the Four Noble Truths is what will liberate. And it's strange because that's like referring to itself. So for the sake of ease and for the sake of recognizing that for a lot of the time, and a lot of us assume that this is me. No, this is my body. These are my feelings. This is how I perceive things. These are my habits. This is me separate from you. This is my heap of stuff. Rupa, with my body. Vedana, my responses. Sanya, my perceptions. Sankhara, my habits. Vijnana, my sense of separation. And these are, when they're clung to, the five khandhas, when they're clung to, this is the whole heap of suffering. This is taking this thing personally. And it belongs to nature. It belongs to nature. Form, feeling, perception, conception, and consciousness. It belongs to nature. It's here, it's right here, and there's this wonderful experience of it. But it's not actually something that I need to take personally. When I take it personally, then there's stress for myself and others. I feel it should be another way, or other beings should be another way. The shoulds and shouldn'ts of life. And there's the sense of they owe me something or they don't owe me something. I owe them something. It shouldn't be this way. This is the nature of how we set up more stress for ourselves and others. And we can recognize how it works, and it's like this. And it shouldn't be this way. I shouldn't cling to my own. And then you're setting up another should. Yeah, but it's like this. The personality and this sense of me is like this. So for the sake of simplicity, or the sake of further explanation, there's also mundane right view, the view or the assumption or the confidence that if wholesome and skillful actions are done, there will be wholesome and good results. That's an assumption. And that assumption, if it's practiced well, will lead to liberation. The assumption that there's some kindness that we've received, that we've come from somewhere. The assumption that there are things that we don't understand. There's ways of being that we don't understand. There are maybe all sorts of things that we really don't understand. We don't necessarily know everything. But there's also the assumption that there could be people that could teach us. There are beings that could teach us. And this is, if you don't have that assumption, then you're helpless and hopeless. But you have the feeling, well, there is a way to be taught that humans can be trained and can train themselves. That assumption is incredibly helpful if one truly desires liberation from extra stress. So that's the basis of sammaditthi in a mundane form. And then the rest of the practice comes from that and is based on that. So the practice of one's thought is there is thought. You know where thought begins and ends. You know what it is. You can notice how thought works, and you can also, through one's action, think. What one does. One acts by body, one acts by speech, and one acts by mind. And it's the mind is the bit that you can really set up. And if you think and act with the mind, with a heart, and with an intention that is clear and wholesome, then benefit will come from that. And setting your intention so that it's not grasping for oneself. It's renouncing. And the big renunciation is the renunciation of self-view and self-importance. And then from that, the renunciation also of, from that, one's thoughts will go to not harming and not exploiting. So you're not looking to harm things because one can't stand them and wants to push them away. One's not looking at exploiting them to try to get more and milk more out of them. These are the forces of greed and hatred. So abandoning those and practicing not following thoughts of acquisition and not following thoughts of exploitation or of harming. That's the Samma Sankappa, the thought that's in accordance with truth. And then practicing also speech. And the whole speech thing is such a business. Practicing not lying, gossiping, backbiting, swearing, abusing people, or just useless, idle chatter. And practicing not doing those. It's again, most of the Buddha's training is about making space by not indulging in the foolish, not having to create more, but just stopping. So you're by stopping, you make space. And space is around compassion, and it allows things to find their own completion. And compassion is about wisdom. Compassion without wisdom just goes wrong, because the actions are not necessarily sensible, and we will get on to that, because the basic actions that one refrains from doing is killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct, and that's the actions, and then the livelihood, giving up the livelihood, the way of getting money that is dishonest or exploitative or involved with things that are not skillful. Exploiting animals, exploiting humans, slavery, weapons, drugs, alcohol. Giving up those sorts of livelihoods, that's that sort of way of supporting oneself. Don't worry, the completion of this comes with complete illumination. So it's a practice. You do what you can, and you keep giving up, you keep giving, you keep giving. You keep reflecting. The story I tell about the practice of wrong livelihood is when I knew that somebody was doing this, I went to approach somebody, a teacher, and the teacher said, if you do find yourself in a wrong livelihood, then you're in a wrong livelihood. It's not to ignore that, but then to do the very best you can within that livelihood and be as honest as you can within that livelihood, and make enough so that you can get out of it as soon as possible. And then through your life, through the goodness of your life, the sense of giving and dedicating the blessings of one's life for the benefit of all those that have been damaged or injured or killed as a result of your wrong livelihood. So do that, and that's part of the Samma Sankappa, the right intention. So have your intention that if there are any blessings of your life, share them with others, because you don't get less blessings by intentionally sharing your blessings. And then making the effort in your life to not pick up habits and practices that that wise people would criticize. So not to do things that that wise people would criticize, not to pick up habits that wise people would criticize. And if you do recognize that there are habits and actions in you that wise people would criticize, then giving them up as quickly as possible. This is the beginning of right effort, which is to stop again and then to let go of that which is unskillful. And then if you do recognize habits and practices within yourself that are skillful, are helpful, then to maintain them and practice them. Continue to practice them. Continue to practice those habits and actions that you know are skillful. And if you see and notice the beauty of other people's actions and of body, speech, or mind, and if you can appreciate them through mudita, then do see if you can develop them within yourself. Think to yourself, well, this is something that I can do, and go from a sense of, act from a sense of aspiration, which is different from a sense of inadequacy. So you think, I can do this, I can realize this, I can work with this. So that comes from a sense of adequacy, and a sense of sufficiency, and a sense of capacity. And act from that to make the effort and keep in mind what you need to do. This is the next one, is to really keep in mind, is what I'm doing fulfilling the intention of what I want from this? Is this mindfulness, is this sati based on the body, the breath, the postures, the way that the body's acting? Is it knowing all of this, knowing how it works? Is it knowing the Vedana, the way that the pleasant, the unpleasant, and the neutral arise, how they cease, how they begin and end? Does it know? Giving attention to this, and then giving attention also to the tone of the mind. How is the mind? Is it bright, dark, dull? How can one lift this thing? How can one liberate this thing so that there's a perspective on what's happening now? There's a recognition of how things are. Things are uncertain. There is stress, and it's not something to be taken personally. This is through the liberation of the chitta, and then what one notices, first of all, maybe is what's hindering the mind. So there's the knowing of the mind that is, of the dhammas that are caught up in the fact that the aramanas, the way that the mind is, the dhamma is caught up in the hindrances, how they arise, how they end. And particularly you notice after that and with that, and how the sense of self arises, how the sense of me, I have to do something, and I'm not sure if it's the right thing or not. So the sense of personality belief, clinging to rites and rituals, and doubt. And these three fetters, how they arise and how they cease, how they work out, how they work from the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, how they cease, how it works, the sense of I am somebody, I need to do something, and I'm not sure if I can do it or not. And those fetters, they arise exactly at the same time. They're all to do with thinking. And it's not to say one needs to get rid of them, or one needs to get rid of personality belief. I have to get rid of my personality belief is making it just life much more complicated. It's here. There is personality belief. This is how it works. And there's the sense of they should be doing something. They're somebody, and I'm not sure if they're going to do it or not. And how that binds and fetters one to an endless, aimless wandering. It's an endless, aimless wandering, that. And not seeing the danger in endless, aimless wandering is just going to keep going, because it is endless. Samsara is endless. And seeing the danger in endless, aimless wandering is the beginning of a refuge and the beginning of a worthy life. And continuity is samadhi, and collectedness around it, a sense of not getting caught, a sense of clarity about things and not being caught in the hindrances, a sense of joy and appreciation about things. And getting on with it. Samadhi is collectedness, absence of the hindrances, a sense of not having to think too much about things, not making problems about things. One thing just flowing as it is. No, not, it's like this, and not fussing about it and just getting on. It's the basic practice is like this. So this is what I would encourage you to practice. Practice the Eightfold Path. And in the situations you find yourself in, or the questions that you have about life or about things, what is dukkha here? What is the cause of dukkha here? Where does dukkha end here? And what is the path to practice here? And these are ways of reflecting on how a life can be noble, worthwhile, how a life has some value rather than being valueless. You know, what is the true human possibility? What is it? How is a human life well led? Because it certainly can bring many, many blessings. A human life is a very, very precious and powerful thing, and can transform, because humans do things, and it's the most fortunate possible way, most complete and powerful way of doing things. The most powerful and complete way of doing things is the human life. The possibility from a human life for enlightenment is the greatest of any beings. It's precious. And I thank you for this opportunity for talking a little bit today. This is about an hour, and should give some time for questions. I'll let Beta monitor and decide what questions can become, or who can come on and who come off. I request that the questions be as clear and as concise as possible. If you just keep talking, I won't understand where to begin in your questions. In trying to answer them, I will try to answer them, and I hope that this talk has been of some value to some people some of the time. If it's of any use, please use it, and if it isn't, please leave it behind, and I apologize for any confusion that may have been unwittingly or unintentionally result from this short Dhamma reflection. And I'm grateful for you listening. Thank you.
Andamayam Dhamma Kataya Sadhu Garang Dadama Se Sadhu 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 Anumodami.